you. Okay. The reason I had to do this training at school is because our school got sued for not appropriately implementing the student's IEP. So this is implementing an IEP in the classroom, but it applies to behavior analysis as well. The learning objectives for today is the overview of special education, IEPs, what are they, components of an IEP, and how to implement an IEP in the classroom. What is special education? Special education is specifically designed instruction that meets the unique needs of a student with a disability in the areas of academic, functional, and behavioral skills and/or secondary transition. Special education is more intensive in individualized instruction than what is typically provided to the general education classroom or student. Special education is provided by an education professional with expertise in individualizing and intensifying instruction, progress monitoring, and database decision making. Special education services must be individualized to meet the specific needs of a student. There are eligibility for special education services. To be eligible to receive special education services, student must first meet two criteria. They must have one or more of a designated set of qualifying disabilities, and the disability or disabilities in question must adversely affect their educational performance. And this is the 13 categories of disabilities that a student can be eligible for special education services. You have autism, deaf and blindness, just deafness, emotional disturbance, hearing impairments, intellectual disabilities, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury, or visual impairment, including blindness. IEPs, what are they? An IEP is an individualized education plan or program, and the purpose of the IEP is to lay out the special education instructional supports and services a student needs to make progress and thrive in the educational environment. More information on what an IEP is: an individualized education program serves as a blueprint. An IEP is a written overview of the educational program designated to meet the unique needs of a student with a disability. The IEP is like a contract which the school personnel agree with the student's parents, provide a set of services and supports for the student throughout the upcoming year. And IEPs are governed by the IDEA law, the federal law, IDEA, which is Individuals in Education Disability Act. So for a check for understanding, what is an IEP? Anybody?
An individual education plan.
Yes. And how many categories of disability are there that students could qualify for services?
13.
13. Then we have the components of an IEP. An IEP typically includes the following: involvement of, I'm up here in this corner, the involvement and progress of the child with a disability in the general education curriculum, all related services for which a child qualifies. Those can include speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy, deaf and hard of hearing services, or anything that the child needs as a related service. Appropriate education, even speech and language, I thought of Jeannie, speech and language pathologist, that's considered a related service. Appropriate educational accommodations necessary for the child to be successful. The child's present levels of education performance, measurable annual goals and objectives for the child's education. More with what are the components of the IEPs. They are current skill level of the child and the effect of the disability on the child's learning process. You must have measurable yearly goals in a student's academic, social, communication, and behavioral skills. A progress monitoring scheme of students with respect to their goals. So you must have some type of way to monitor the progress the student is making. The set of services, accommodations, modifications, and supports that the student needs to be successful. Their least restricted environment, that's the child's placement of the student's educational definition. Details of participation of students in the district or state testing. The commencement date and window of services for the amendments, and the signatures of the parents and the other IEP team members. And then we're going to learn about how to implement an IEP. IEP implementation is the stage of the IEP process during which school personnel provide services and support described in the IEP of a student. The function of this stage is to assist the student in realizing his or her goals and objectives in the IEP document. You must communicate with the parents and other members of the IEP team, training and support your teachers, your paraprofessionals, and other staff who are responsible for implementing the IEP. That means the general ed teachers, the bus drivers. If the student is on the bus and he does have a behavior plan, that's part of his IEP. You have to educate them on how to implement that as well. Assessing the process and performance of the student through data and evidence, and you must review the IEP as required by the student's needs and outcomes. And the IEP implementation is a continuous and cooperative act, and that necessitates the school administrator to make sure the ideal procedures and substantive requirements are met. So it's continuous. The IEP, if we see something that's not working in that, you could always go back and have another IEP review meeting and change up if the goals or something is not working for that student or the supports. Implementing the IEP continue. The IEP implementation is intended to ensure that the likelihood that the student will meet the outlined goals. Every individual who provides services to the student must understand their responsibilities. These might involve providing specialized instruction for a specific portion of the day, providing accommodations, collecting and reporting progress monitoring data, or communicating a student's progress to his parents. And then with implementing the IEP, you must ensure that you take the following action steps identified below. You should review each student's IEP and understand your responsibilities. Document service delivery as appropriate. Everybody has to document the services that they provide. With the general education teachers, if they're giving that kid accommodation, they have to mark which accommodation. If he gets extra time when they're taking a test, or if they read the test aloud, oral administration or something, they must document that to show, if the parents say, well, my child didn't receive these services, we have to have some type of proof that those services or supports were provided to that student. You also should assess and review the document progress towards goal, prepare progress reports with supporting data, and establish and maintain effective and positive communication with the special education case managers and parents, and inform the special education manager if there is a need for an IEP amendment or review. And then what we hand out at my school to the general education teachers and to the related services people is a portion of the IEP, which is called an IEP at a glance, and that was emailed or sent to you yesterday. It includes the accommodations, and if they have a behavior support intervention plan, that is also provided to the teachers. Any questions? Okay, not. The IEP at a glance document, I'm gonna escape on that one and share that. That was sent to you. If you will look over that, there's relevant portions that that are included on that IEP. You should always have the student's name, their date of birth. The student code is just their ID number for whatever district they're in. Their grade.
Patty, are you sharing the other document?
Oh, yes, let me stop share and reshare.
Yep.
Stop and reshare. That. Yes. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this was sent to you, and this goes along with the relevant portions and the pieces of the IEP, which is on the next slide. So there's your student information or demographics at the top, and then you have your IEP date. This is the date that your IEP is effective. I did not write this IEP. It's a draft form, and this is actually the student who the complaint was against, that the school was not following his IEP appropriately. So he is an 8th grade student who does have autism. And right now his current placement is in the general education classroom. Before he came to our school, his placement was in a special education classroom for social skills. And so he can go back and forth to that classroom all day, and he go to the general education classroom. Then when he needed a break, he was allowed to go to the special education classroom. So these are his measurable goals. Those are his academic goals, but I just want you to look at the behavior goals, which are right here. Emotional factors. Sorry. So it says, when presented with no more than 2 prompts, processing time or request, walk away and come back, and checking for understanding or request and clear expectations or actions, blank will complete his assignments per occurrence or per grading period. So to me, it didn't make much sense, but that's what was written. Then the other one was non-compliance. The student was not, the first one was for him talking back or to begin his task. The second was for non-compliance. When presented with clear expectations or rules, stated requests, processing time, and consequences of his action. If you do this, then that, will comply with adult directives in 3 out of 4 occurrences per class. And then he had another one for staying in his assigned area by the next annual IEP. When presented with his BIP, we're not presenting the student with the BIP, we're presenting him with the supports he needs will attend all classes and remain in the class at least 90% of time. So those were his behavioral goals. I'm going to stop sharing so I can go back to the presentation. And to me, they weren't the greatest. So let me go from current slide.
But
So
you know what, Patty?
yes,
I didn't mean to cut you off, but being a special ed teacher before we start taking this, it would have seemed fine. But now that we know better, it's like all kind of wrong. So thank you so much for that wonderful review.
so those were the IEP. Thank you, Barbara. IEP at a glance. So this is everything that's included that the teacher gets. What is located on IEP at a glance, the student demographics, the IEP date, the student's eligibility, what they meet, their criteria for special education services, who their case manager is, if they have any issues, who they need to contact.
Do you need to share your
levels.
screen?
Yeah, we don't have the presentation in front of us anymore.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Lindsay, did you have a question while she's pulling that up?
Yes. Okay. So Patty, you're not the special ed teacher. What is your role in this again?
I'm the special education department chair and coordinator for the school. So I facilitate all the IEPs, and then I have to go through to make sure everything is correct before we could give it to the parent.
Okay. And so in your district, like, how would I get you involved into a meeting?
I'm involved in every meeting that happens at that school. So yes, they can't hold the meeting without having me present.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome. But
So, you wanting to know how to get your special education coordinator or person involved at your school for your students?
yes.
You would contact your administrator and let them know that you need to speak to your special education coordinator for your school. If not, you can call the district directly, which that parent did, to get the information.
Okay.
Patty, so a follow-up question on that. Is this correct that if a parent says, I want these 5 people present, that the school should or must accommodate those 5 people?
The school should or must accommodate those 5 people. But with this particular student, the district is being sued by that parent. The parent is also an employee of the district. So it got really complicated here,
Right.
but they should.
I'm just thinking for Lindsay that when she goes and registers her kids at a school and the school comes back and says, hey, we need to have an IEP meeting. And she says, that's great. I would like to make sure that the special education coordinator is there.
Yes,
So, okay, and plan that at a time that the special education coordinator can be there, right? It's not a weird
Correct.
ask.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Right.
And so my next question is, when you say that the general ed teachers must show that they have provided accommodations, what do you require for them to fill out to show that those accommodations have been?
At our district, we have something called Power School. And it's a tracker for the general education teachers to put their accommodations in, so that we could run a report to make sure that, to see who was actually keeping their accommodations. But also, I could share some resources with you, Lindsay. We have for some of the teachers who do not, like the paraprofessionals or the learning coaches, they do not have access to a grade book or Power School or whatever. So we give them little stickers with the accommodations listed on it, and they check that and they put that on the back of the student's work.
Nice.
I can send you a list of those accommodation sticker things if you wanted to print them and, share them with your team.
Yes, that would be lovely because, and I don't know if we even are gonna have a special ed coordinator because we're going to a new charter school. So like they kind of operate on the outside of things,
Mhm.
but my district school isn't working out. So I'm grasping at straws right now, trying to make it work.
So I did have a situation that we had before. There was a kid at a private school, a charter school, who was zoned to the district. So we had to hold the IEP meeting and, provide all that information for the charter school.
Okay, well, we might have
So-
to go that route too.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. I know that's
no problem. No problem. So based on looking at that student's IEP at a glance, even though it is in draft form, it's being changed and we will be having a meeting coming up in a few weeks. So based on the information from the IEP at a glance, would there be a better way to write the behavioral goals? Anybody?
well, they don't really
Well-
make much sense right now. So
Right.
making a cohesive sentence would be a good start.
And I think what's important, like I was sharing with you, we know when we look at that now, that's all kind of wrong. But
Mhm.
then, us being current students and understanding, we have to stop and pause and go, okay, wait a minute. Let me go back because I need to really work on it. That's what I would do if this was mine, because I like right now, I wouldn't know right now because I would want to make sure it's great, but we would have the tools or we would have the resources to talk to people, say, hey, can you guys help me work on this? That sound like Jenny just then.
Yeah. Jenny would say, run it through or get a cab.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Does it have all the parts and pieces?
Right. And then the other question is, how would the BCBA implement one of the students' behavioral goals? So those goals that were there, how would you implement that? Or how would you appropriately implement it? Or is it ethical to implement that goal? Let me stop sharing and I'll pull the goal back up just so you can see it. Let's just take, for instance, this one that says non-compliance. Did I reshare or no?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
My bad. I'm sorry. Alrighty. Okay. This go right here. Highlight it, try to highlight it some. Non-compliance. When presented with clear expectations of rules, stated requests, processing time, and consequences of this, if you do this, then that will comply with adult directives in 3 out of 4 occurrences per class.
First of all, we would need to make sure there were clear expectations. Are they in front of this person? Does they have it in their binder? Is it on the wall? But since it's with all classes, it's going to have to be with them in all of their binders so that they understand what are the expectations in each class.
Correct.
Because if they don't know, you just can't just say it one time, which people forget in special ed. You cannot tell kids something one time and expect them to remember. So, and that's why we have the we have their personal schedules and information that
Mhm.
they need to have, so that if they need to go back, if the pair are sitting there and say, hey, look at this, read this real quick, look at this, are we doing this, are we following this, that
Mhm.
sort of thing, you know. And because I worked with the same district that you're in, that's not happening.
Uh-huh. So this
So
year, though, it has been redone, and clear expectations. He does receive a visual schedule, and the teachers have to talk to him a calm voice, because if they talk too loud or something, it disturbs him, and he
mhm,
has a meltdown. He wants to use his cool down pass or take a break. So it's, with using your cool down pass or giving time to, to relax or whatever, to take a walk or at his own terms. We have included some of those different things for this particular student, because
awesome.
a lot of the time his non-compliance was because of the tone that the adult was giving him the directive in.
What about, there's like no reinforcers listed like at all. So like, I would think
There's no
that,
reinforcements listed on here, but he does now have a token economy, even though he's in middle school, 8th grade. He has a token economy, and he's working for Visa gift cards. So
Nice.
well, I mean, I think that's, I mean, honestly, I think that's good. I mean, everybody needs something that's valuable to them to make this important, because I mean, if social studies is not important to him, you're gonna have to find something that is, or
Just to remind you all too, we all go to jobs every day for a token economy. Our
Yeah, we
paycheck
do.
is a token economy. So I think it doesn't matter the age. I went to work today and earned my token to get my hours, to get my gold star today, to get my reward at the end, to exchange my tokens for a larger reward at my paycheck at the end. So just to not knock down token economy at any age.
At any age.
It was an
absolutely.
adjustment for me when we started paying some of our clients for reinforcement and like Amazon gift cards and stuff. I was like, are we really doing this? So I
Good
think it's,
questions.
yeah, I think it's like more common now with how tangibles are so desired, that it really gives that buy-in of the kid for the motivation. So even though Dr. Patty, it's token economy, he still, knows he's working for that actual dollar. So I'm sure it is very motivating for him.
yes, it is.
Yeah,
It's
and
very motivating.
I
And
just
another
want to
thing,
add a quick comment to that, Chandra, because when I work with my early intervention kids, this is my 2 and 3-year-old families. The first thing that I teach the parents is how to get that kid to learn to earn, because I want them to be tax-paying citizens one day. And so if they don't get that, they don't understand how to access their reinforcers, all of our programs die. Lindsay brought up a huge point. Where's the reinforcer schedule on this? And maybe it's in a behavior intervention plan. I don't know that I write my reinforcement schedule stuff into my IEP goals, but it needs to be part of the program, because like Christina said, if I'm not getting paid, I'm not showing up for work. But I teach that to my 2 and 3-year-olds or their parents anyway, because I want that to be a thread that goes all the way through, that the whole point of this is that I end up with access to something that I want.
Well, that's exactly what happened with our kiddo. So his old BCBA gave him like Minecraft bucks, and he would exchange them in at the end for like, he had to earn the amount of Minecraft bucks for like the prize that he wanted to be bought off of Amazon. But then he like figured out like, well, what if I just want money?
Right.
Like, my own. So,
The ice cream man's coming today. I want $3.
yes.
All right, back
Um,
to you, Dr. Patty.
Okay, so these
can
were
I
just
make one quick comment too?
Quick,
yes.
we're over time.
Something I'm trying to teach my son, to try to encourage him getting that intrinsic reinforcement from, hey, I learned this and maybe it wasn't so bad. Is we have a check-in for him, like, hey, did you do a good job? Did you read well? Did you use your good handwriting? And right now, he's kind of in a phase where he's like, yeah, I did awesome. But this today he actually gave himself a 4 instead of a 5, because he said, I could have wrote a little neater when I did that. And I was like, that was very good self-assessment. And
Yeah,
so
nice noticing.
I think with time, it's gonna slowly transfer from, you know, a little less, you know, just constant reinforcement, and hey, I do want to do a good job on this. That's my hope. Not that reinforcement ever goes away, but
Awesome.
Well, this is just a list of the accommodations that this student has. He's separated by the academic accommodations and his emotional factor accommodations. And then these are his testing accommodations for state and district. And down here is his scheduled services. And he does have special projects, 80 minutes, 5 times every 2 weeks. And he comes to me for social skills lessons for that.
Nice.
So that is that. Let me stop. And I'll just go back to the PowerPoint real quick, just to end it, close it out. And it's BCBAs are part of the IEP process and how to use those in the thing. I will share my PowerPoint with you. And Lindsay, I will attach or email you those other things.
yeah.
So thank you all. And this is just placement in different places where a student with special education can be placed. General education setting with no support. General education setting with direct or indirect support. That's like in-class support. Special education resource classroom. Special education self-contained classroom, or out-of-district placement. Any questions or any concerns regarding implementing a student's IEP? If
Great
not,
job, great job, Dr. Shields.
thank you.
It was nice to